Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Yusuf Taha speaking. Our group will be presenting about Napoleon Bonaparte, his life, his wars, and his occupations. And the first part which I will be presenting is about the life of Napoleon Bonaparte, the very brief history, the very brief lifetime of Napoleon Bonaparte, who I describe as a history shaper. Napoleon Bonaparte was in fact an important figure, important politician, important leader, and important warrior both in the France and in the world, whose ideas are still used in today's politics, in today's economics, and in today's finance, and so on and so forth. So let's take a look at the very brief lifetime of Napoleon Bonaparte, and then afterwards we will be also looking at some facts about Napoleon Bonaparte that we need to know in order to understand, in order to acknowledge the importance of Napoleon Bonaparte for us. As everybody knows, history is written by and full of powerful leaders that shaped it from the very beginning. Leaders like Hammurabi, leaders like Jules Caesar, or Alexander the Great, or Prophet Muhammad were powerful leaders that shaped the history. And one of such leaders, undoubtedly, is Napoleon Bonaparte. And why he is so important is because he was one of his kind, he was a leader, he was a politician, and he was a warrior, a great warrior. And he was also an important figure in changing the ages of history. Why that is so is because he was a very important figure in the French Revolution. He was in fact the builder of the French Revolution. So now let's take a look at the very brief history, the very brief life story of Napoleon Bonaparte. So this slide is about his early life and education. So Napoleon Bonaparte was born in Ajaccio, Lacoste in 1769, and he was the second son of his family. About his education, he did his education at a school in Brienne, as you can see in the picture above, and then he enrolled at the military academy in Paris, as you can see in the picture below. And the picture above in Brienne now is used as a museum of Napoleon. And after graduating here in 1785, he joined the artillery regiment at Valence. And then Napoleon in military. After graduating there in 1794, he was appointed as the commander of the artillery corps in Italy. And then he was asked to be sent to La Vendée, but because he was associated with the group Jacobin, he refused to do so, and therefore he was dismissed from his post. And then he returned to Paris. After returning to Paris, he joined the forces of Lazare Carnot in order to suppress the movement against the convention. And the events developed soon, which has led to the birth of a new constitution and directorate, which has changed the regime of France at that time. So Napoleon as commander. Napoleon Bonaparte was put in charge of the army in France in October 1795. And in February 1796, he also became the commander-in-chief of the army in Italy. And meanwhile, at the same time, he married Josephine, who was the widow of General de Beauharnais, who was a very important figure in the French politics and was also an important figure during the French Revolution. He was an important politician during the French Revolution. So Napoleon is a shining triumphant. Napoleon Bonaparte has made his first expedition to Italy in April 1796, and this expedition has spread his fame because the expedition to Italy of Napoleon Bonaparte is considered as a masterpiece of strategic mastery, which resulted in great success, and this spread Napoleon's fame. And from this time on, from the moment that Napoleon Bonaparte has made his expedition to Italy, he has done several other victories until the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, where he was defeated. So all these wars between these two will be explained in the following paragraphs, which my friends will be presenting. So now we'll be looking at some facts about Napoleon Bonaparte that we need to know, that we need to note in order to understand, in order to acknowledge the importance of Napoleon Bonaparte. So, as I said earlier, Napoleon Bonaparte had his first marriage in 1796 to Josephine, and his letters to his wife, Josephine, are still preserved today in the National Archive of France. But then he had a second marriage, which was a marriage of logic with Mary Louise of Austria, and Napoleon wrote her only advices on his son. Apart from some elegant, some beautiful letters, he only wrote her about something that he advises on his son. And also, Napoleon Bonaparte, when he was a young officer at the age of 26, he had wrote a book named Clisson et Eugene in 1795. It was a romance novel, and it surprised all his readers. Napoleon is a science seeker. Napoleon Bonaparte is also known for opening the way for Egyptian historical research, because when he was making his expedition to Egypt in 1799, he took 150 scientists, engineers, historians, archaeologists, and painters with him to Egypt, and all those scientists and artists have made a huge developments in the Egyptian history and Egyptian culture, because since the Rosetta Stone in Egypt they discovered was a very important stone and had played a key role in solving the Egyptian hieroglyphs. This discovery is considered one of the most important moments in history in the matter of culture. So Napoleon Bonaparte is a pioneer of developments. Napoleon Bonaparte was dreaming of creating a single country by uniting all of the European countries, and this is why Napoleon Bonaparte is considered the father of ideas of the European Union that exists today. Another fact is that in order to feed his army, which was spread all around Europe, Napoleon Bonaparte developed techniques for food to last longer so that he can feed his army for longer. And this has led to the invention of the canned foods, which we still use today. So Napoleon is a intercontinental warrior. Napoleon Bonaparte, in fact, sold some of the lands of France that located in the USA in order to finance his war with Russia, and this caused America, the USA, to reach twice the size at the time. And today, in the Louisiana territory of the USA, Code Napoleon laws still apply. Napoleon is an obstinate emperor. Napoleon Bonaparte was driven to Elba Islands off the coast of Italy when he was defeated in the Moscow campaign, and he then escaped from there and tried to take over the rule again. But after the defeat of Waterloo on 22nd June 1815, he was sent to the island of St. Helena in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and there he died shortly. And today his mausoleum in Les Invalides in Paris attracts visitors. So that's all from Napoleon, from the brief history of Napoleon. I hope everybody understood. I hope everybody got something from this slide. That's all from me. Thank you so much.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullah. Sir, I'm Salman Juhair. My metric number is 1632403. Today, I have to discuss about the war and occupations made by Napoleon. Napoleonic Wars 1799 to 1815. In those period of times, he has he has done a lot of battles, especially War of the First Coalitions, 1796. They followed and connected about every European country in a grisly battle, a battle that additionally overflowed into Egypt, America, and South America. During the wars, or the during of this period, the battling was not steady. Fighting was to change and move towards current fighting, abandoning everlasting war as a game of lords, and moving towards the idea of total war and the countries in arms. Especially different aspects during the Napoleonic history of wars. Uh, in 1903, in part to raise funds for wars, France sold its North American Louisiana territory to the United States for 15 million, a transaction known as the Louisiana Purchase. Napoleon then returned to war with Britain, Russia, and Austria. Napoleon is a master Napoleon is a master of speed to fight and know how to handle the war. Uh, in the time of 1805, England, Australia, Russia, and some other territories get together and decide. They are not pushed around by Napoleon anymore. Napoleon sees this coming, these groups is coming, and he invades into the Australian Empire, and he achieves the greater victory that he won the Battle of Austerlitz. His speed was phenomenal. He could move an army miles much faster than other could. And then by 1808, in Spain, that he met his first real significant defeats. He invaded Spain because Spain was horribly corrupt and he needed to control it better. He puts his brother on the throne. Spanish didn't like that. So that they rose up and they fought against the French, and they do guerrilla war, so that Napoleon but after all, Napoleon as his strategy, he once declares victory, and after gaining victory, he goes back to France. And after these Napoleon Wars map of Europe in 1812. In 1812, France was devastated when Napoleon's invasion of Russia turned out to be a closer failure and the beginning of the end for Napoleon. In this time of period, invasion of Russia, 1812, Russia opts out of the continental system. Napoleon mobilized an army from many countries: Italy, Germany, Poland, Hungary, Austria, Netherlands, Switzerland, France. He put together a huge army, and this is the beginning of the end of Napoleon. After this, the Battle of Waterloo, um, 18 June 1815. In June 1815, his forces invaded Belgium when British and Prussian troops were stationed. On June 16, Napoleon's troops defeated the Prussians at the Battle of Ligny. However, 2 days later, on June 18, at the Battle of Waterloo near Brussels, the French were crushed by the British with assistance from the Prussians. On June 22, Napoleon was once again forced to abdicate. This is for me for the wars and occupation made by Napoleon. That's all for me. Thank you, sir. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Khalil. I am from Senegal. I study in UAE. Today I am going to represent an important topic, impact of this war in Napoleon occupation. Is talking about revolution, French Revolution. We will take some part to explain of the impact of Napoleon war. So first of all, impact of Napoleon war art in the second half of the 19th century. On June 18, 1850, Napoleon was overthrown in Waterloo. But this art of war survived. It is about this military which it had revolutionized, and of which another made many applications longer after this disappearance, inspired by the method of 18th century theorists. Napoleon favored his strategy of annihilation in the conduction of military operation and thus placing himself in the category of strategy, seeking above all the decision battle with a wish to destroy enemy force. Uh, in light of the tactic and strategy that Napoleon using in his most famous campaigns, this will attempt to identify the Napoleon method that were most often using during the second half of the 19th century. The conflicts studied during this period were the Crimea was 1853, 1856 the Italian campaign, 1859 the American Civil War, in 1866 in France, France war. All will take in contact in account not only only the influence of the progress in armament and means of transport and communication and the art of war in general, but also the economic, financial, political, and military context of the warring side of this time. The second part, Napoleon War in Italy, post-war politics from 1896 until the half of Napoleon Empire in 1815. The public and private life of many, perhaps most Italian war fighters which were removed removes of war and preparation for war. Why they cannot be compared with 20th century experience of total war. The impact of the revolutionary and Napoleon War on the security, economy, politics, life and culture of Italian of all classes was considerable. However, measuring the impact of war is complicated. Uh, war was experiences more often indirectly than directly, affecting different social group in different way. Why the consequences that are specific to war are not easily these things is from the broader breeden imposed by the imperial project. The second third part, Napoleon Wars of Egypt, social reform and the progressive of the French occupation of Egypt. France arrival in colonization had resulted in extensive destruction of property and a huge loss of life. From war, and rebellion. In addition, France had exposed the Islamic society of Egypt to negative characteristics of the Western culture. Diene, reform and progressive only come after the France retreat. During the time of Muhammad Ali Bahasa 1805 and 1849, who had brought Diene economy and social politic progressive of Egypt, finally leading to positive national development. Finally, we will explain the worldwide economic effect of the Napoleon War 1793 1850. The economic impact of the revolution and Napoleon Wars by focusing on the relative price event. It is possible to tell that the conflict had major economic effect around the world. Britain's control of the sea meant that it was much less affected than a nation, such as France and US. Explicit welfare calculations are provided for four countries: Britain, France, Sweden, and United States. Welfare losing were large in the US, where they were of the order of 5 to 6% per annum. By contract, they lie between 3 to 4% per annum. In France, and between 1.7 to 1.8 per annum. In Britain, on another hand, the conflict helping pave the way for the more liberal international economic environment of the long of the 19th century.